Have you ever been judged just by the way you look? Have you ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere because of your faith, your clothes, or your silence? If yes, stay with this story till the end. You'll feel seen. And if you haven't, maybe it's time to listen. It was just another golden morning in Beverly Hills. Expensive cars lined the boulevard like trophies. Every person walking into the Ferrari showroom looked like they belonged on magazine covers. But then came a man. Quiet, slow-paced, wearing jeans that had seen better days, and boots that told stories. His black t-shirt hugged him loosely, and around his neck hung a small, silver crucifix. It caught the sun, just enough to gleam, but not enough to matter to those inside. The moment Keanu Reeves stepped into the glass-walled dealership, the atmosphere dipped. Two salesmen glanced his way. One nudged the other and whispered with a smirk, "Another street preacher looking for AC and a photo." Keanu didn't flinch. His eyes weren't wandering. They were focused on one car, the Roma Spider. Midnight black, clean, beautiful, quiet power. He wasn't there to show off. He wasn't even there for himself. This was a gift. For a childhood friend. Someone who once gave him half a sandwich when he had none. Someone whose prayers had carried Keanu through silent nights no one knew about. This car wasn't just metal and speed. It was love, in a strange and shiny form. But that part, no one cared about. The manager stepped out from behind the glass desk. Tall, sharp suit, sharper eyes. His gaze slid over Keanu like he was dirt on polished floors. Then his eyes stopped at the crucifix. "Nice accessory," the manager said with a half smile. "But faith doesn't finance a Ferrari." Keanu looked at him. Calm. Almost too calm. "Do you believe in anything?" he asked, not aggressively. "Just a question." The manager gave a short, practiced laugh. "Yeah. Numbers, accounts, credit scores." And just like that, the atmosphere tightened. One of the salesmen looked like he wanted to speak, to step in, but the manager's glare shut him down before a word left his mouth. Keanu walked quietly past the display cases toward the Roma Spider. His fingers brushed the edge of the hood like it was sacred. He didn't look around. He didn't need validation. But his silence made them all uncomfortable. At that moment, a couple walked in. Designer suits, branded heels, smiles meant for selfies. They were greeted with sparkling water and polished charm. Champagne trays emerged from nowhere. A red carpet they didn't ask for was metaphorically rolled out. And Keanu? He stood inches from a dream and miles from respect. As he turned to leave, not angrily, not even sadly, just gently, the manager blocked his path. "I'm going to need you to step out, sir. This place is for real clients." The words didn't cut as much as the meaning behind them. Keanu simply paused, looked at the car once more, touched the cross at his chest, and smiled. Not because it was funny, but because the moment had already flipped, and no one in the room knew it yet. Outside, the world kept moving. Engines purred. People laughed. But inside the glass walls of the Ferrari dealership, time had shifted, just slightly. Enough for one person to notice. Lucia, the girl who polished the windows and served espresso to clients too rich to thank her, had seen it all. She wasn't supposed to. No one ever really noticed her, which made it easier to see everything. From the moment Keanu walked in, she'd felt something. Maybe it was the way he didn't shrink under the cold glares. Maybe it was the way he touched the car like it had a soul. Or maybe it was the crucifix, a silent signal she understood more than anyone else in that room. Back inside, the showroom buzzed again with curated music and shallow laughter. The staff returned to their masks. But Lucia's eyes followed Keanu through the glass, watching him lean against the side of the building. He wasn't pacing. He wasn't angry. He looked tired, like someone who'd carried too much for too long. Then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and something subtle shifted in his face, like even he couldn't believe what he was reading. Ferrari Gala, 8 p.m. Guest of honor, Keanu Reeves. He exhaled through his nose, almost smiling. Then, looked back at the dealership with the calm of a man holding an ocean behind his silence. Inside, the younger salesman, Jake, was still uneasy. He leaned into the manager, whispering, "I think that guy's someone important." The manager didn't even blink. If he was, he'd dress like it. This isn't a soup kitchen. Lucia winced. Not because it was harsh, but because something told her he was wrong. And she hated knowing he'd find out too late. She moved across the floor slowly, passing the polished Ferraris and customers too distracted to care. As she neared the manager, her voice was almost too soft to catch. "Do you even know who that was?" He didn't look at her. "Number. And I don't care." But she had already pulled out her phone. Her fingers typed fast. When she turned the screen toward him, his eyes finally moved. The headline stared back. "Keanu Reeves to be honored tonight by Ferrari International for global humanitarian work." Everything stopped. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. His smirk vanished, replaced by something colder than fear. Realization. Lucia didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She just whispered the words that would replay in his mind for days. "You just kicked out your guest of honor." Outside, Keanu had already started walking. Not in anger, not in pride. Just moving forward, like he always did. No rush, no heat. Just a quiet, steady purpose. But just before he disappeared down the block, he turned back. One last look at the place that judged his faith, not his heart. He opened his notes app, typed something simple, and slipped the phone away. Then, he did one more thing. He walked back, not inside, just near the door, and handed something small to the security guard. A white card. The guard, confused, carried it inside. The manager unfolded it with trembling fingers. "My name is Keanu Reeves, but you can call me a potential client." The air vanished from the room. The card sat heavy in the manager's palm, like it weighed more than the Ferraris surrounding him. For the first time, his confidence cracked. Not publicly, not with shouting, but in silence. The kind of silence that screams inside your own head. Lucia stepped back, her hands still slightly shaking. She had never spoken up before. But something about today, something about him, it made silence feel heavier than truth. Customers began to whisper. Someone had seen the card. Someone else was already Googling. A tall man with a foreign accent, who'd been recording the showroom for his luxury vlog, was now reviewing his footage. Not of cars, but of the insult, the plaque, and the man in worn boots who asked nothing. And somewhere, under the soft hum of instrumental jazz, a shift began. Not in the music, in the atmosphere. Keanu was long gone, but the weight of what had just happened, it was only beginning to settle. Back at his hotel, Keanu sat on the balcony. The city stretched beneath him like a glittering web of stories. Some kind, most not. He didn't scroll through headlines. He didn't check social media. He just sat quietly, fingers on the crucifix at his chest, replaying the moment. Not because it hurt, because it was familiar. His assistant knocked gently on the door, holding a tuxedo in one hand and a black envelope in the other. "Your ride for the gala will be here at 7, sir. Ferrari's rolling out the red carpet." He didn't answer, just nodded, and then softly said, "It's never about the carpet. It's about who they try to keep off it." Meanwhile, in a different part of the city, the manager was sweating under the weight of realization. Phones were buzzing. A call from Ferrari International had already come in. Not angry, but worse. Disappointed, controlled, surgical. "There was a misunderstanding," he said into the phone, pacing behind the tinted glass of his office. On the other end, a cold voice replied, "Yes. We'll clarify everything, publicly." When he hung up, he didn't move. He stared at the plaque near the entrance. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Funny how that line could sound like policy one moment, and a mistake the next. Lucia didn't say another word to him. She didn't need to. She walked out of the office without being dismissed, her espresso tray left untouched on the desk. Outside, the sun was beginning to dip. But what was about to rise would be brighter than anything they'd ever seen. Night in Beverly Hills doesn't fall. It arrives. Quietly, but with all the noise money can buy. Camera flashes replaced the stars, and blacked-out SUVs lined the street like moving shadows. But tonight, the lights weren't for fashion or fame. They were waiting for a man who had already walked away once without saying a word. The red carpet outside the Ferrari International Gala shimmered under chandeliers suspended from cranes. Executives whispered in Italian. Influencers rehearsed their poses. But then, a sound silenced them all. A low, smooth engine purr. Not aggressive, just confident. A custom Ferrari 812 pulled up to the front, and from it stepped Keanu Reeves. No red bow, no entourage. Just him, in a charcoal suit, no tie, and the silver crucifix still shining against his chest like quiet defiance. For a moment, the cameras forgot to flash. Then, as if the world collectively exhaled, the applause began. Soft at first, then growing. Because they all knew now. And those who didn't? They would soon. Across the carpet, near the back, the dealership manager stood frozen. His rented tux suddenly felt too tight. His champagne glass shook slightly in his hand. When Keanu's eyes met his across the space, he didn't scowl. He didn't smirk. He simply nodded. Just once. And that hurt more than anything else could have. Inside, the ballroom glowed like a dream. And somewhere near the back, in a navy blue dress that didn't try to be noticed, stood Lucia. She had been invited personally, not as a server, not as staff, but as someone who saw what others missed. Keanu spotted her and smiled. The kind of smile that says, I remember who stood up when no one else did. Then the lights dimmed. A screen lit up behind the stage with 4 simple words. For those who see differently. And then his name. The MC spoke with pride. Tonight, we honor Keanu Reeves, not just for his art, but for his heart. For the children he's supported in Sudan and Ukraine. For the lives he's changed behind the scenes. And for the way he walks through the world, with humility louder than headlines. The crowd rose in applause as Keanu stepped up to the mic. He stood there, quiet, looking across the room filled with wealth, power, and now, a strange sense of accountability. Then, calmly, he spoke. Today, something happened. I was told my cross didn't belong near certain cars, that my faith didn't match the leather and the horsepower. He paused. A few people shifted uncomfortably. But I believe values do belong here. Kindness does. Humility does. Compassion should come standard in every brand, every showroom, every heart. Silence. Then thunder. Cameras clicked. Eyes welled. Even influencers forgot to check if their hair looked right. From the shadows, the dealership manager sat down slowly, watching everything he ignored now being celebrated. After the event, Keanu walked toward Lucia. She straightened, unsure what to say. He leaned in slightly and said, You and we noticed things today others didn't. Would you like to work somewhere people listen to that? Her answer came without hesitation. Yes. He smiled again. It's not just a job. It's a mission. The next morning, the headlines weren't about Ferraris. They were about faith, dignity, and a silent revolution. Lucia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The world had seen what happened. Her story, shared in a simple, unedited video, was now everywhere. She wasn't the coffee girl anymore. She was now Ferrari's Director of Ethics and Humanized Service. A title that didn't even exist until she proved it should. And the Roma Spider? It never made it to a garage. It sat quietly in the courtyard of a refuge center for war-displaced children, where Keanu handed the keys to a woman who'd spent her life saving lives. "But it's a Ferrari," she whispered. "Exactly," he replied. "It should move hearts before it moves wheels." He walked away quietly. No press, no fanfare, just like he always did. But the message was clear. Integrity doesn't need to be loud to change the world. Have you ever been judged for your faith, your appearance, or where you come from? Share this story with someone who needs to remember: respect isn't bought, it's lived.